You had one job, one small, simple thing. Set her down for 3 minutes, long enough to eat something warm, long enough to use the bathroom, long enough to feel like a person again. The moment her back touched the mattress, before your hands even fully lifted away, she screamed. You picked her up. She stopped. You waited. You tried again. Same scream, same instant silence the moment your arms found her. This is the part no one prepares you for. Not the exhaustion, not the feeding schedules, not even the sleep deprivation. The part where your baby simply refuses to exist anywhere except pressed against your body, where setting her down feels less like a practical act and more like a small abandonment she registers instantly and completely. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a worry has taken root. Is she too attached? Am I creating a problem? Am I making this worse by always picking her up? If this is already making you see your baby differently, hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps. And drop a comment telling me how old your little one is right now. I love knowing who I'm talking to. The science behind what her arms reaching for you actually represent changed how developmental researchers understand the entire first year of life. And what it reveals about those reaching arms is going to shift something in the way you see these moments. Your baby arrived in a world she was not built for. For 9 months, the womb gave her everything at once: constant warmth, constant pressure against her skin, the muffled rhythm of your heartbeat, your voice, already memorized before she ever opened her eyes. She was never cold. She was never alone. She was never suspended in open space with no edges and no walls pressing back. Then she was born, into air, into fluctuating temperatures, into a world that does not hold her by default. Developmental researchers call the first 3 months after birth the fourth trimester. Human babies are by evolutionary standards born too early. Our brains grow so quickly and grow so large that if we stayed in the womb long enough to be neurologically ready for the outside world, we could not physically be delivered. So we arrive incomplete, still expecting the warmth, the pressure, the constant sensory contact of a body nearby. This gap between what a newborn's nervous system requires and what the outside world can offer is where your baby's reaching begins. At this stage, somewhere between birth and 6 months, her nervous system cannot regulate itself on its own. She cannot warm herself. She cannot calm a stress response once it starts, and she cannot pull her own cortisol levels down when fear spikes them. Cortisol is the stress hormone. When she is cold, it rises. When she is startled, it rises. When she senses that your body is no longer near, it rises. And what infant stress studies have found is that sustained high cortisol in the first months of life, not a single spike, but elevated levels across days and weeks, interferes with the development of the brain structures she will eventually need to regulate herself as an older child. Her arms reaching for you are a regulation system. She is not doing this for comfort in any optional sense. She is doing this to keep her nervous system functional. Every parent who has stood at the crib at midnight, baby finally asleep in arms, afraid to breathe before the transfer, has felt the same quiet guilt. Am I spoiling her? The belief that shaped parenting culture for generations says something close to yes. She needs to learn to self-soothe. You are teaching her that crying works. You are building a habit she will never outgrow. This framework came from a real place. It came from exhausted parents who needed something to hold on to, and from a model of infant development that was constructed before anyone had the tools to see what was actually happening inside a baby's brain. Mid-century pediatric advice treated babies as small adults who needed structure and the gradual withdrawal of closeness to build independence. The neurobiology of infancy has made that model impossible to defend. A baby between 0 and 6 months has no architecture for manipulation. The prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain responsible for planning, social strategy, and intentional behavior, is essentially offline. When she cries, she is not calculating outcomes. She is in physiological distress. When you pick her up and she stops, nothing about that exchange had to do with reward. Her nervous system received the co-regulation it cannot yet produce alone. You were not responding to a demand. You were answering a distress signal. There is a specific term in developmental psychology for what her outstretched arms represent. John Bowlby, a British psychiatrist who spent decades studying the bond between infants and their caregivers, described it as the proximity-seeking behavioral system. His framework, attachment theory, became one of the most replicated bodies of research in all of developmental science. The proximity-seeking system is biological before it is emotional. When your baby's nervous system detects a threat, and at this stage of development, that includes almost anything unfamiliar and explicitly includes the absence of your body, one response fires automatically. She reaches for the person her brain has designated as her safe base. the one whose scent, voice, warmth, and heartbeat her nervous system already knows. What Bowlby and the researchers who followed him discovered is that this system, once activated, does not respond to waiting. The proximity-seeking response in a young infant escalates until it is answered. Her crying is not dramatic, it is neurological. Her system is running the only program it has. She is not holding on because she is clingy. She is holding on because her brain has identified you as the one thing in her environment capable of bringing her back to calm. Mary Ainsworth, a developmental psychologist who extended Bowlby's work through the 1970s, conducted a series of observations that became among the most referenced findings in all of infant research. She watched what happened when babies were briefly separated from their caregivers in an unfamiliar room and then reunited. Babies with a consistently responsive caregiver did something specific when that caregiver returned. They reached, settled fast, and went back to exploring. Babies whose caregivers had been inconsistent or unresponsive behaved differently. They either clung and could not settle, or they stopped reaching altogether. Ainsworth called the first pattern secure attachment. The variable predicting it was not the volume of time a parent spent with their baby, or the perfection of their technique. The single strongest predictor was whether the parent reliably responded when the baby reached out. Each time you pick her up when she reaches, you are laying down the neural architecture of trust. Her brain is learning one thing over and over in the simplest possible way. When I signal, my person comes. If you're finding this helpful, please subscribe and turn on notifications. I upload new videos every week, and I'd hate for you to miss one. Your support is what makes this channel possible, and it genuinely means the world to me. The behaviors themselves tell a story once you know what you're reading. The crying that starts before she even lands on the mattress is the first thing parents always describe. You lower her toward the surface, and before her weight fully settles, the protest begins. Her proximity monitoring system is detecting the withdrawal of your body heat and the shift in pressure against her skin. Her nervous system at this age cannot distinguish between being set down gently and a caregiver gone. Both arrive as the same signal. When you try to pull her away from your chest, she grips harder. Her hands curl into your shirt. This is the proximity-seeking system doing what it was built for. The attempt to create distance registers as a threat, and gripping you is the only tool available to her. You may have also noticed she settles for you in under a minute and cries for 20 minutes in arms that love her just as much. Her nervous system has encoded you with a specificity that goes beyond relationship, your particular scent, the vibration of your voice through your chest wall, the precise rhythm of how you move when you walk. Other people, even familiar and loving ones, do not carry those signatures. Her response is precise, not a judgment on anyone else. She also settles faster, pressed against your chest, than held outward in your arms. Because on your chest, she can hear your heartbeat. That sound is the first sound she ever encountered, traveling through fluid and tissue across 9 months of prenatal life. When she presses against you and hears it, her nervous system recognizes it before her brain has any language for what she is feeling. One behavior surprises parents every time. You set her down 2 feet away. She can see your face clearly. She still cries. A baby at this stage has not yet built object permanence, the understanding that things continue to exist when they are out of reach. Seeing you and touching you carry different information to her brain. Seeing you tells her you are present. Touching you tells her body she is safe. She is not being irrational. She is working with the cognitive tools she actually has. Go back to the moment that opened this video. The mattress, the careful transfer, the screaming that started before your hands even lifted away. You were not doing anything wrong. You were doing what every exhausted, loving parent does when they have been holding a baby for 4 hours and their arms are shaking. Trying to buy 3 minutes. Trying to exist as a separate person for long enough to eat, to think, to breathe. And in that moment, her brain's proximity monitoring system detected the withdrawal of your warmth, the loss of pressure against her skin, and fired the only response it had. A survival circuit running on wiring that kept human infants alive long before there were cribs or houses or soft mattresses. Her system found a threat and called for you. She was crying toward you the same way a needle finds north. Her nervous system was calibrated to locate you. It located you. And you came. The parent who picks up their baby in that moment is not being managed by a newborn. She is completing a biological circuit. Her baby's distress signal fired and her response arrived. That exchange, repeated hundreds of times across the first year, is how a human brain learns at the cellular level that the world is a place where signals get answered. She is not learning dependency. She is learning reliability. And reliability is the foundation every other form of independence is eventually built on. So the next time it happens, you can pick her up without the guilt sitting in your chest. You can hold her with your full attention instead of half your mind wondering if you are doing something wrong. Because you are not doing something wrong. You are doing the most neurologically precise thing a parent can do for a baby at this stage. You are confirming again that her system works, that when she reaches, something reaches back. What does that confirmation build over time? Longitudinal attachment studies, some tracking children from infancy into their 30s and 40s, have produced findings that stopped researchers. Children with consistently responsive caregivers in the first year showed better emotional regulation by age 3, stronger peer relationships by age 5, higher academic engagement through grade school, and greater capacity for intimacy in adult relationships. Their nervous systems were assembled on a foundation that registered at the deepest level, the world responds to me. The parents in those studies were not extraordinary. They were ordinary. They were tired. They misread their babies regularly. They had hard days and harder nights. What they did, consistently, was come back when the baby called. Mary Main, one of Ainsworth's students who extended attachment research into adult life over several decades, described what securely attached children carry forward as an internal working model, a relational map built in infancy. The map carries a belief so basic it never rises to conscious thought. People who love me are reachable when I need them. I am worth the reaching. Your baby is drawing her map right now, in the specific moments when she cries and you appear, when she reaches and your arms close around her, when her nervous system calls and yours answers without either of you deciding to do it. One honest thing worth naming here. You do not need to respond to every signal within 30 seconds or manage every transfer without a single sound of protest. Secure attachment is predicted by good enough responsiveness, sustained across time. Donald Winnicott, the British pediatrician who coined that phrase, chose his words carefully. Your baby does not need perfection. She needs you to keep showing up. Some evening in the next few months, something will shift. You will lower her toward the mattress, already bracing for the scream, and instead there will be a pause. She will look at your face for a moment. She will confirm something, and then she will settle. You may not register it immediately. The quiet will take a second to land because you will be so prepared for the crying that its absence feels like a small trick. That pause is her nervous system doing something new. It is beginning to carry you with her, even into the small distance between your arms and the mattress. Her brain has heard the answer enough times that it is starting to trust the question will be answered. Her body is learning to rest in the interval between reaching and being found. She will not remember the specific nights of this year. No conscious memory of those transfers, those wakings, those long hours of being held will survive her third birthday. What will survive is the emotional architecture built from them. The baseline sense that she is findable, that she is worth finding. That sense will shape the way she walks into every room, every relationship, every difficult moment for the rest of her life. The mother she consciously remembers will be the mother you become later. The mother she is built from is the one holding her right now in this exact tired and devoted way. The next time her crying starts before your hands even lift away from the mattress, you will know what she is saying. She is telling you, in the only language she has, that you are the one thing her nervous system knows how to find. And every single time you have shown up, you have been teaching her the most important thing a person can learn, that she is worth finding and that the finding will come. Thank you so much for being here until the very end. It means everything. If this video changed how you see your baby even a little, please share it with another parent who needs to hear it. Check out the videos on your screen now. I think you'll love them. And subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one.